Now you see it, and now you don't. That was a garden room that you can build in one day, and we're going to show you how. But we've got a little bit of a challenge on our hands because we need to do this in 8 hours. We need to erect the walls. It should look something like that. Install the roof, install the floor, and install the sliding doors at the front. Not bad at all. And we've got to get it all done before it gets dark. We really have run this close. So with that said, I think we should make a start. Go! Go, 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 go! So this is the Piccolo garden room kit from the Insulated Panel store. The whole thing, as it was unloaded, has been put in somewhat of an order. This is not a very big garden, so we can't get it all out and lay it out. So hopefully we can take each bit off as we need it. With the kit, they've even sent us this little crate. Let's have a look what's in here. We've got a rivet gun. I'm sure we'll find out what that's for in a little while. And a pack of what looks like instructions and some lion bars. There are, boys, there's lunch. A ratchet strap, we'll find out what that does in a bit. A rubber mallet, a tape measure, and lots of fixings and things that we'll talk you through as you get going. There's even drill bits and a mug. We've also got the sliding doors over there stood up against the fence, and we're going to show you how to install them in a little while as well. Now we are starting with a nice square solid concrete base. When you build these, you get an option to do a timber base or a concrete base. We prefer a nice solid concrete base. This is perfectly square, so you want something square and flat and solid to start building your garden room on. These are the base tracks. They're labelled up B1 and B2, and they get fitted to the perimeter of the concrete pad first. So the first thing we need to do is flip our base tracks over, and we're going to install this foam tape onto the bottom of them. Now we want to install this along each edge of that base track. 2 strips of it all the way along each edge. This stuff is sticky, of course. It sticks to the bottom, and then we'll peel off this film once we've got the pieces of foam cut. I'll do that for all 4 of the base tracks, and then I'm going to come back and peel off the sticky protector on the bottom before we install them to the concrete base. So we're going to start along the front edge. We'll square up from the front. We know that our concrete pad is really square, so we don't need to worry too much about squaring this up. We'll of course do some checks, but we can start by just squaring it up along this front edge here and along this edge here on the corner. And we should be somewhat relatively square. We'll do some checks afterwards, but that's going to be pretty square because we know the concrete pad is square. So we've roughly laid all of this out. We're going to fix this front one down first, but we've got a measurement in the book. Your book will tell you the measurement. That measurement is 3318 from corner to corner. So 3318. So I'm a little bit short currently. To get to the 3318, I'll just move this down a couple of mil like that, and we've got a very small drainage gap between the 2 base tracks, and that just lets any water that comes down from where the panel meets the track drain away out of the track. So that is the correct measurement, and now we know we're centralized on the pad. We know it fits perfectly, so we can now begin to fix down these base tracks, starting with this big long front one. The base tracks have got pre-drilled holes in them, and you get provided with the concrete fixings. Now I've got a 5mm drill bit in a drill, and I'm just going to drill through the pre-drilled holes into the concrete. So I've done a couple of holes to start with. I'm going to get a couple of fixings in, and we're going to do that all the way around, and then we'll come back and we'll put the rest of the fixings in afterwards. But that allows us to get it all square and perfect before we bolt the whole thing down. So I've got an impact driver with an 8mm bit in the end, and that will be perfect to fix these down. So we've got that first front one fixed in place. Now before we square this up, we want to make sure we do the same along the edge. So what was the measurement?
2216.
2216. So there we go, that's perfect, and that should give us, just like before, a little drainage gap. This is a builder's square, and it is going to help us to make sure that we're perfectly square, because we need to be perfectly square, otherwise when it comes to building the building it's going to be a nightmare. So it's vital that we get this correct. So we'll just lay that in there, get it flush against that corner, and we can see it's very slightly out. So what we want to do is just shift that back edge along. So what I'll do is give that a little kick, and that's going to bring it square. There we go. Now once you've got your base tracks down with a few screws in each one, you've got the measurements correct all the way around, just do a final check with your building square. You can see we've got it laid in there. We know it's perfectly square on each corner, but also in your book you get a corner to corner measurement, and we are pretty much bang on there. So we check that both corners, 3990, perfect. So we know that it's completely square. If you do have to make any adjustments, go around and do them now before you put all the screws in. Now we're just going round and we're doing the rest of those fixings around the base tracks. The lads are just drilling and screwing as they go. So our base tracks are in, they're fixed down with all the fixings, and now we can move on to the panels. Now, when your garden room is offloaded, it should be offloaded in the right order, so you can just grab the panels and install them straight away. We're starting on this corner here, and the panel that we need first is C1, which I assume means corner 1. Each panel has this film on the inside and on the outside, and we need to peel that back so that, of course, if we don't peel it back at the start, it'll get stuck in the track and we won't be able to do it later. So top and bottom, peel all that film back, and then we can lift it in. So C1 going in first. Now you can see they just lower down into the base track, so they slot down on either side. And now that C1 corner is in, we move on to the next panel. So this panel is P1, and now we've got that corner in. Are you in?
I'm in.
They can't see me, but oh yeah, you can. So we're just going to drop the panels in down into the base track and then slide them in so that they click into the previous panel. Right, if I hold this one, can you push it? There we go. Whoa. Now, what you're going to notice is that you'll have a little gap between the panels. That's normal. After we've got all the panels in, we'll show you how we close them up, because we had a little look ahead in the instruction book and we now know what that ratchet strap is for. So them little bits there, don't worry, they're not going to locate in completely straight away. Now make sure when you're installing these panels, you do them in the order that your instruction book says, because they've got a fall on the roof. They're not all completely square. They actually have a fall on them, so the rain runs off. So don't get them in the wrong order. So this is corner 2, C2. And the corners are a little fiddlier than the panels.
That's the one.
So you see that with a little bit of jiggling around, it's hard to get the camera in there. We just hit it with our feet a little bit, just gave it a little tap, and it does fall in. And we're just going to keep working our way around the room. Hit the music. So once you've got all your main panels in, it should look something like that. And as you can see, it's pretty easy to do. We are an hour and a half in. We're already eating into our time a little bit. 6 hours, 30 minutes to go to hit our target. So what we're going to do now is work on the door header. So you want this piece, the door head. It's got pre-drilled holes in it, as you can see there, and we're going to use these pre-drilled holes at the end. We're going to drill through into the panel and we're going to get this installed. Right, so you can see you have a little angle on there just to lift that in, otherwise you can't get it in. Make sure when you do this, the mitre on the door head is tight against the panel, and the clamps just help to hold it together so you don't have to hold it all with your hands as you work. Now I'm just using a drill and the drill bit supplied to drill through the corner of the trim, and then using the rivet gun to pop a rivet through into the panel. Now you've got the same thing on the inside as well, so you've got 4 rivets to install at this stage, 2 in each corner. Right, panel 5 and panel 6 next, they go in on top of the door header. you have to lower these down together at a slight angle. So now what we've got is these little infills for the footer here. They just go along the bottom, of course. You just follow the instructions so that you know exactly what way round they go. Typically it started to rain, so we've got a little umbrella that the guy who owns the house has brought out for us, and we've put that over the laptop. So now we've got all of the panels in, we now know what this ratchet strap is for. It is to go around the building and pull all of those little gaps tight so the whole thing clicks together. You've got a load of packaging in your kit, and we're going to use that on the corners to protect the building from the ratchet strap. The heavens have opened. We are now officially doing this in the rain, and of course that's only going to make it get darker earlier. So we really are against the clock now. We've probably actually got less than the 6 hours that it's showing on that timer. The lads have got the ratchet strap somewhat tensioned, and what you want is for your ratchet strap to be a foot or two from the top of the building. About a third down is fine. And then once we've got all our pieces of protection in there so we don't damage the building, we can crank it up and it's all going to click together. Now we've done our ratchet strap, we leave the ratchet strap on for now, and we're going to go around and we need to rivet on both sides of the rest of that head. Now you'll see that bit in your kit somewhere that Chris has got. That's called a ridge support. And of course that is quite a big bit of metal. It's quite heavy because the weight of the roof needs supporting above the door. So we'll lift this on. It's a two-man job because it is quite heavy, this one. Once your ridge support is on, you'll want the provided Tech screws. They're a little self-drilling screw and they've got a foam washer on. We're going to go through the holes in the ridge support and we're just going to tighten these up. Now you don't want to over tighten these, you just want it to touch just so the washer is nipped on there. The time is still going. We've got 5 hours 31 minutes left, but I think we're probably nearly halfway there, to be fair. So once we've got this screwed up, maybe we'll get them lion bars out. Right, so the next thing we're going to do is put our door jambs in. So I've got door jamb L, so that's obviously door jamb left. Luke's got door jamb right. So to put these in, I'm just going to pop it in there at the mitre at the top, because of course you've got that mitered corner there, and then we'll just place the door jamb over the panel and pop it in place. And the miters look absolutely spot on. Perfect. Right, now we've got the sill, so this is marked up sill 1, not that there's 2 sills. And now just like we did on the header there, we're going to go around, we're going to drill with that little pilot bit that you were given in the kit, and then we're going to rivet the door jambs and the sill in place. So whilst these boys do all the hard work, hit subscribe for me. I think I've earned it. I'm out here in the rain, so hit sub. It's free, it helps me out, and hit like, because that helps this video to reach more people and teach more people to do this job themselves. Right, have you got all them rivets in yet?
On it, boss.
Right, I reckon we're about halfway. Let's get the provided lion bars out. Luke?
Whee!
Right, as I got a mouthful of lion bar, hopefully you can hear me, we are now putting all these headers on. They go on the tops of the panels for the roof to sit on. So look at your instructions and you'll see the order that they go in. So now all the flashings around the bottom and around the header that we just put on need to be screwed with our little stitcher screws, the same as we did before. The guys are doing the top, I'm just going to go around the bottom, and we're just using our impact driver to just pop these in, just like we did before. There we go. And we've got 4 hours and 50 minutes left. So with that said, we really need to get on. So back to the foam like we did at the start. We need 2 rows of foam along the top of the headers here, and then we're going to have some bitumen rubber in the middle. So what I'll do is, just like we did before, we'll have a couple of strips of this foam, peel off the protective strips on all of this foam, and what you should have is something like that. So we've got 2 strips running either side of that header. Now you've got this rubber sealant that was provided with your kit, and all we're going to do, we'll put a line of this down the middle between the two strips of foam. So this is really handy stuff to have, X-Pro Super Solver. If you get that bitumen rubber anywhere, it's a nightmare to get off. So put a bit of Super Solver on there, and that will just allow you to wipe it away, whereas anything else pretty much won't touch it. So this stuff is really handy. X-Pro supply me with all my stuff. Check out the link for them in the description and have some of this at hand because it is really useful. So now we're on to installing the roof panels. We've got 4 hours and 11 minutes left. You can see just over there. And if I swing you around this way, we're getting through the pile. Now your roof panels have got this cutback on them, 75mm. That goes at the back. So these roof panels are the same, but that bit goes at the back. But one thing we are going to do, we're going to cut some little bits of batten to use as a jig so that we know the correct overhang as we go along without having to keep measuring it and moving it. We'll just have a bit of wood. So for example, the front is a 400mm overhang. We'll have a 400mm bit of wood and we'll be able to just measure that off as we go along, nice and easy. So you can see we lifted the panel on without smearing all that rubber everywhere. Just lift it in. We both got in there, lifted it on and then put it down. And our third man just went round with the batten and checked that the overhangs were correct. 400 on the front, 200 on the side to the profile. So there's a ridge profile, 200 to that, and then 300 to the back. Now we've got these big fixings. So before we put any more panels on, we're going to put these big fixings. They're just like the ones we used down below, except they're a lot longer to go through the roof and down into the top plate here. So how do we know where we're going to put those in? Well, easiest way, grab a tape, measure from the very end of the panel, because you can see here that you can get the correct measurement down onto the top plate. So it's 350mm from the edge of the panel there to the middle of that top plate, so that the fixing's going to go down. Once we put it down, it's going to go down into the top plate there. So if we mark 350 on the crown, then we know that when we go down, we're going to hit that top plate. So we'll do that on the two middle ones. We don't do this leading crown here because we've got an overlap for the next panel that goes on there. Make that mark on each crown, 350, and I know where my screw needs to go down and through. Then I'm just going to grab my impact driver, place the screw on the mark, again, make sure we don't over squash that rubber. There we go, perfect. And that has squashed all of that sealant and everything down between the panel and the top plate of the wall. We'll now repeat that along this other crown on the back. We also measure off for our front plate and do exactly the same, screwing the panels down on the front edge as well. Now where your panel overlaps between the two fixings down into the plates, every 450mm you have one of the little stitcher screws, and that just stitches the two panels together and stops water coming through. So all we're going to do, measure off 450mm from the fixing, 450. And now it's rinse and repeat until we get all the way to the other end. Now on some insulated panel store buildings, you'll have a Z trim that goes along this edge. However, we've got to crown this edge to support our E-flashing, so we don't need that, which means we can move on to the ridge fillers. Now, they need to go 80mm from the front edge. Now I'm going to run a bit of my sealant just along the back of that line to stick the ridge filler down. All these really do is stop creepy crawlies and things from working their way into the eaves. So we can stick that on there, job done. We'll do that all the way along. I've got no one to help me hold the camera, so hopefully you can see. I'll do it with one hand. The last bit goes on there, and then we're just going to cut that little bit off with a knife so it's nice and neat. You won't see it anyway because it'll be underneath, the flashing. So our roof is all screwed down. The lads are now just putting on this trim here. So this is called the E1 trim, and it has a little gap. If I walk this way, I'll just show them. It has a little gap under there, whether you can see that, for water to drain out. That is a 20mm gap between the edge of the roof and this piece of trim, so the water can go under it and drain down the back. Now the eaves trim is on. We've got this perimeter trim. Just pull it away so they can see. It is kind of a box flashing. It's got the smaller section here, bigger section here. The bigger section goes on the top so that it sits over the crown. So it sits over one of these crowns and it overlaps nice and flush on the corners. And we do that all the way up. And of course it sits just on the top of that filler there. Now our little stitcher screws, we've put a couple in for now just to hold them, but once you've got all your flashings on, you want to put these 450mm apart all the way around the perimeter, on the top edge of the flashing and on the underside of the flashing. Then you've got these pieces EC1, they're little corner trims, and all they do is they cover up the joint so that it looks nice on the corners, get them nice and flush, and then all we're going to do, pilot hole through again with our drill bit, and just like before, pop in some rivets. Now you don't need many tools to build a one-day garden room, maybe just a couple of friends, but what you do need is to get your name in the hat for this lot here. A 10-piece power tool kit from Erbauer, including the Connex storage system. Now this comes with pretty much every tool you might need as a DIYer or tradesman, including the storage to keep it all in. Every single week on Ultimate Tool Competitions we kit people out with power tools, and this week it could be you. So make sure you head over to the link in the description and get your name in the hat for this lot, and I'll see you over there. Right, how long we got? 2 hours 16 minutes. We gotta get the door in yet. The pressure's on. Can we do it? Take that. Right, this is your DPM sheet. Comes in your kit. All we're gonna do is roll it out and cut it in. And that's gonna stop, of course, any moisture coming up. Now I'll just go around and cut it roughly to size. We'll come back at the end and tidy it up. If there's anything showing above the floor panels, we can just cut it afterwards. So you don't need to worry about being hugely precise with this. So the lads are now bringing in the floor panels, and it's white side up with these. We need to spin this one round, Chris. So remember, white side up. We're going to peel the rest of this off later because it just protects it. Lay this down with the tongue facing in the direction you're working, so the next one can slot into it. Just like that. And the rest of the panels are nice and easy to install. You just drop them in place and click the joints together. So we've got our floor installed now, and we're just taking the ratchet strap down. We don't need that up anymore. It's done its job, and Luke's just finishing a few screws around the top of that 450. But that is our insulated panel store building completed. Now remember, there'll be a link in the description where you can get one of these if you like it. But we're not done yet. We've got 1 hour and 52 minutes on our laptop over there, and we've still got a sliding door to fit, so we're really under pressure now. Now we're moving on to fitting our door, so we're going to just mark the sill. Now all we're going to do is lay it in position and make a little mark so that we can cut it to length. Now we've cut this sill to fit the door opening. Normally you'd cut this a little bit shorter. You'd cut it about 6mm shorter, 3mm each end, and you'd have your end caps for your sill. You'd then mite glue those in. You'd do that before you fit the sill. Well, I normally would. However, they've missed them off the delivery. That wasn't Insulated Panel Store that delivered this. These doors were bought by the guy whose house we're at, and they've missed them off. So he's got to ring them up, and then they're going to have to be cut and put in afterwards. So what we're going to do now is level this up, because of course we want the door to be perfectly level once we install it. Quickest way of doing that, don't bother putting the sill in yet. Just get a 6-foot level, nice long level, and just lay it on the sill there. And we can see that it's about 2 2 or 3 mil out, so not bad at all up this end. Now I'm just using Brilliant 365 clear silicone from X-Pro. Great stuff, I always use it. We'll use it throughout this door process. Again, link will be down below in the description to those guys. And I'm just going to stick a blob of that on the bottom of these packers, and I'll just stick them down to the sill so they don't go anywhere. And we can see that it's absolutely perfect. Now I'm just going to put a load of silicone just along the bottom there, just to stick that sill down. And now we can lift the sill on. We're going to get that nice and flush on the back there. There we go. Perfect. And it should be somewhat level. Well, not somewhat level, it should be perfectly level. Which it is, good. Now we're sealing between the edge of the sill to make sure no water can come in along the edge, and along the back of the sill where the door sits so no water can track in. Now we can lift our door in on top of the sill. Not bad at all. Right, we're going to get this centralised and then we'll get some fixings in. What we're doing is we're just plumbing this door that way, because if the door falls out or in, then it won't be plumb. So get the level on there. I've got a couple of packers in there. I'm just getting that plumb, and then we're going to get a couple of fixings in at the top each side and at the bottom each side. Now what we're going to use to fix these is bay pull screws. So these are essentially a long tech screw. These go straight through and then they go into the metal frame. So we've got all 4 fixings in. The door can't go anywhere. We're just going to go around with some more screws and some more packers. You can see we've got some in the top there, and you can see we've got the laser level running along there. I've got my Hupar laser level. Did a review of that on the second channel not so long ago. Check that out. There'll be a link in the description. And I've run that along the top of the door to check the door is not bellied, because sometimes they're bellied, sometimes they're warped. So if there's a belly in the door, you'd of course screw into that belly to pull it up, pull it straight. Ours is not actually too bad at all. So we're just going to get some screws in, get it fixed in, and then we can finish fixing it in with some foam. Now I'm just going around the edges of the door with some expanded foam just to finish it off. Now we're putting the glass in the doors. Now one quick thing before you start doing this, make sure you do the door that doesn't slide first, because you've got to get this bead along the edge here. And if you've got this door here with glass in, you won't be able to do this one because you can't get the hammer in to do it. So we've already done this one, as we really are losing the light now, although the rain has passed, so it seems to have brightened up a little bit, but we are definitely losing the light. So I'm just going to glaze this one and I'll show you how easy it is. So the lads are just cleaning the glass, they're now going to bring that in, but I'm going to pop the beads off first. So we'll pop these beads out. Now we're going to put some packers in to centralise the piece of glass. So it's a fixed pane, we haven't got a heelan to it. That's a completely different job entirely, but on a patio slider like this, it's just a fixed pane, so we haven't got to worry about that. But we do need to centralise the glass. Now all I'm going to do is use my Brilliant 365, and I'm just going to stick packers in each corner, and that will just support that glass and centralise it. So I've just put that Brilliant 365 on there. I'm just going to stick a packer like that in the corners, one at the bottom and one on the side, and I'm going to do that for all 4 corners. Right chaps, bring the glass in. How long we got? 34 minutes. We really are running really close to the time now to hit this challenge. One quick thing, they're now bringing that glass in. If you turn around you'll see them out there. They're now bringing that in. You've got this little sticker here that says inside, so take that into account. You need to get the glass the right way around. Now of course, don't let go, not until the beads are in. Right, so now we're going to put the beads in. Now make sure before you install these that they're clean, because any grit or anything on there could damage the piece of glass. So make sure they're all nice and clean. You've got the short ones for the top and bottom, and then you've got the long ones for the sides. Now make sure you do top and bottoms first, because they don't bend so easy. The long ones, just because there's more length, they bend a lot easier, and you'll see why that's easier in a second. So start with the tops and the bottoms. Just get any grit off people's grubby boots off there. Luke, I'm looking at you. And then spray bottle. Just makes it a little bit easier. It's got a bit of soapy water in there. Rubber seal facing up. and I'm just going to lay that in there. Nylon hammer, don't use a metal hammer. There you go. It's a little bit scary if you've never done it before. Now, of course, once the top and bottom's in, you can let go and do the sides. So you can see what I mean by doing these side ones last. You can bend both of the corners in. Otherwise, if you do the short ones, you don't have that flexibility. Now, this bit's going to make a snap noise, and it is going to scare you a little bit. Listen. That bit's always scary. But that is how you glaze your doors. Now the lads are starting to trim up around the door, because you can see, we can still see the foam at the minute, but that is the last step, and we've got, how long we got? 19 minutes left. We really have run this close. So whilst these guys make a start on the trims, I'm going to show you the last one so you know how to do it. But big shout out to the Insulated Panel Store for sending us the garden room. This is not a paid for video, but they did send the garden room. Check out the link in the description. And big shout out to X-Pro, who provide all the sealants and silicons and adhesives for us to get this job done. And any of the other little handy things you need to find to get the job done will be linked in the description below. Right, let's get the last few trims on and beat that clock, because it's only got 18 minutes left. So to install the little cover and strips, they just stick on and they cover up the gap between the building and the door. And all we're going to use to fix these is the X-Pro Super Mitre Activator. It's a two-part adhesive. You've got the adhesive part that we put on the building and the activator that we spray on the trim. So I'll put the adhesive onto the side of the door frame. I'll just run that down there. You probably can't see this hugely well. And then on the back of your trim, just spray a bit of activator. Now this stuff goes off super quick when you touch the two parts together. There we go, and then we just push that strip on there. And that goes off super quick. Hit pause, we have done it. So we beat the timer with 10 minutes remaining, and we've proven that you can build a garden room in not only under a day, but in 8 hours as well. So grab a few friends and build one for yourself this summer, but it's not really quite finished because it's full of rubbish. It's dirty, it's got adhesive all over it from the covering strips. We need to pull all that off. And then I'll show you what this thing looks like. Look how good that looks. We're really chuffed with that. In just an 8-hour day, we managed to build something that looks that good. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, check out one of these to learn more about building garden rooms, and I'll see you guys in the next one.